So I've been using this camera bag here. Shimoda Action X30 is my main camera bag for several years by now. I've loved it, it's worked well, very little complaints. But the one complaint that I have had is that the core units up until this point have been a little small. So currently my setup looks a little something like this here. Please don't fall out of the bag. Got large telephoto lens, got second camera body, kind of like my landscape time-lapse camera body, lens on top of teleconverters, and then this spot right here is where the vlog camera would go. But I just have a little too much gear to fit all in that core unit. So what ends up happening is I end up using this top compartment here for extra storage. Got the drone, controller, extra lens here, batteries, flashlight, strap, etc., etc. So all that extra equipment usually sits in the top compartment, and that's a problem because this top compartment not padded at all. Now Shimoda seemed to have solved that problem with the addition of their new core units. This is the extra large mirrorless core unit, which promises more space. So let's put all that stuff in here and see what it looks like. All right, well, not gonna lie to you folks, but this setup is a little bit of a tight squeeze, but it does fit everything inside of here. I'll just do a little point of view shot with the iPhone here. I did have to break down the Alpha one, split it up, but we've got all this camera gear down here, essentially the same setup, drone and extracurricular stuff all right here. This is where the vlog camera would go, and then big long telephoto setup right here. Here it is. That was a process. This is the extra large mirrorless core unit packed in the Action X30. As you can tell, I kind of already prepped the setup a little bit because I've actually been using the extra large mirrorless core unit for a little while by now. I took a trip to the Big Island with it. Shimoda sent it down maybe about a couple of weeks ago. So I have been using it and testing it, and I've kind of formed a little bit of like mixed opinions about these new core units. But in this video, we'll kind of talk about it, discuss it, and see if this is the right fit for you. Full disclosure, I am a Shimoda affiliate. So at the end of the video, I'll give you guys a discount code if you are thinking about getting these core units or anything from Shimoda's website. You can use that discount code to save yourself a little bit of money. But again, full disclosure, I am an affiliate, but all of these opinions and statements that I'm going to be making about these core units are my own. Shimoda doesn't get any input on how this video is made, so you are getting my unbiased, unfiltered opinion. And like I said before, my opinion is a little bit mixed on these core units. All right, so a quick overview of these core units. So this is the extra large mirrorless core unit. It's made primarily for the Action X30 series, but they've also released kind of big boy core units for all of the other Action X series, as low as the X25 and up to the X50. Essentially, these core units maximize the amount of camera gear that you can carry in each bag. So like you saw earlier, the size difference between the large mirrorless core unit and the extra large mirrorless core unit is pretty substantial, and allows you to, of course, maximize the amount of camera gear stored in these core units. So the next interesting feature about these new core units is they now feature the RST, or the rear side and top access to your camera gear. Now, this is how you access the rear side of your camera gear, through the back door of your camera bag. This is kind of the normal way we access our camera gear, through these Shimoda bags. You've also got the same side access as always, hence the word side access. So side access to camera gear. The new and interesting feature is the top access If we peel some of this stuff back here, you now have top access to your camera gear. I'm just gonna pull out my microphone, but I'd be pulling out my vlog camera, and can also pull out, with a little bit of finagling, a big telephoto lens via the top axis, if that's what you wanted. Now, this top axis actually isn't new to Shimoda. They do have the top axis in their extra large DV core units that are used for their X70, but this is the first time that they are integrating it in core units all the way down their line, from Action X50 to 40 to 30 to 25. They all now feature this rear side and top axis. All right, Auntie's stay watering her plants over there, so I'm gonna pack it up and move to a different spot, one where I'm not in her way. But some pros of the extra large mirrorless core unit, of course, pro number one is the fact that indeed you can fit more camera gear. Obviously, that's kind of the main pro, is that you can fit all your camera gear in a nice padded compartment. It's super safe. It always felt a little bit sketchy putting camera gear in that top compartment because it was never padded, so I always had to make sure that I had to very gently put the camera bag on the ground and not be very careful not to damage all the camera gear in the top compartments. Oh man, I should have just taken this bench from the start. It's a nicer view, a nicer background. Oh well, hindsight is 20/20. No way I'm gonna redo that whole section. But the other thing that I've noticed, because now all the camera gear sits in one nice gigantic compartment inside the camera bag, the carrying experience is a lot better. So before, when I had camera gear in the top compartment, sometimes you could feel it shifting around, especially if you're moving side to side. You know, all that loose camera gear at the top is just kind of shaking around. It would make the carrying experience not ideal. You know, you would use just a little bit of muscle to kind of compensate for that shifting weight in the camera bag. And usually it wasn't that big of a deal, and I didn't notice it until I threw everything inside this larger camera cube. And now I notice that it's just a much more pleasing camera gear carrying experience, I would say. So it's easier to hike in, easier to walk around, because you don't have all of that camera gear shifting in the top compartment. Now, when it comes to this top axis here, it is handy, and I have found good practical use for it. Let's pretend it's raining. You know, you don't want to open up the rear side of your camera bag to expose all of your entire kit to the rainy conditions. Well, this top axis makes it real easy to, if you pack your essential gear at the top, you know, main camera, vlogging camera, it makes it real easy to pull that camera gear out, even though the weather is junk, and put it back in without getting the rest of your equipment wet. This came in handy on the Big Island when we were shooting the Amakihi in some pretty rainy and pretty harsh conditions. So the fact that I had access to the main camera, the telephoto lens, as well as the vlog camera, I didn't do a whole lot of vlogging on that particular shoot, of course, because of the weather, but because I had access to the top camera gear, I was able to put my main camera in and out of the bag without getting the rest of my camera gear wet, and that came in super handy. So here are the shots from that particular shoot. With that being said, though, these core units are not perfect, and again, like I mentioned before, it's not all sunshine and rainbows when it comes to this core unit. There are a couple of cons, and the first con is that when you put the essential gear in the top to be used for top axis, which is, you know, it's one of the main reasons why you would want to use the top axis. When you do want to access it the regular way through the rear, hang on. flip this the other way. It makes the process a little bit awkward because you kind of have to dig underneath this section of the bag to try and grab stuff and, you know, pull it out. And sometimes when you've got like a mounted camera body with a lens on there, it makes it real difficult. And to just kind of show you guys how awkward it is to access the big telephoto setup this way, you kind of have to like pull the bottom part out, kind of jimmy rig it out, and then your hot shoe cover ends up sliding off in the process. And you know, it's just it's a lot of stuff going on here. And to put it back in through the rear, you kind of have to like slide it in, jimmy rig it. As you can see, it's just not the most seamless integration with the top axis and the rear axis. You kind of have to pick and choose what the best way to carry your camera gear is for the quickest access. You know, for some people, they're gonna prioritize the top axis. Some people, they're gonna prioritize the rear axis, but the two don't exactly work very nicely together, if that makes sense. You know, another thing too is that if you are going to be prioritizing the top axis, it's not the most smoothest process either to access the camera gear from the top, especially with the Action X pack. First of all, in order to really take advantage of the top axis with the Action X, you're gonna wanna remove that little blue pouch that's on the inside of the camera bag here. This little blue pouch here, you either have to remove it or just kind of partially remove it and push it to the side, but it really kind of just gets in the way of accessing your camera gear through the top compartment. So, you know, I used to put in like SD cards and rear ND filters and batteries and camera straps and stuff in this pocket. I've since found other homes for those things, or just, you know, opted not to take it anyways. But you know, this extra piece of fabric, you're gonna want to not have it so that it doesn't get in the way of accessing your camera gear. Let me make sure that doesn't blow away. Hang on. So yeah, once you have that piece of fabric out of the way, now you can access your camera gear quick and easy. It's not that hard, but that is with the roll top open. Let's try and access it through the quick access pocket here. Kind of open it up all the way. You have to like really yank back all that rest of that extra fabric, and then you can access your camera gear, but it's a little bit more awkward because you have less space to pull your camera gear out of. So as you can tell, again, it's not the nicest process to quickly access your camera gear in the Action X series. In addition to that, you know, a lot of us buy the Action X series for the roll top exactly. You know, sometimes we want to carry an extra jacket, extra clothing, gloves, extra camera gear, snacks, whatever, into this top compartment. And if you are planning on using the top access, you're gonna have to not bring any of that extra stuff unless you want to like take out the extra stuff first and then take out the camera gear, and then it kind of defeats the whole purpose of having a quick access solution at the top in the first place. However, I don't know if it's officially supported, but I think that if you were to pair these new core units with the right Explorer bag, like maybe this would work well in the Explorer 30 or the Explorer 35, or you know, if you got the large 25-liter core unit and put it into a Explorer 25 or an Urban Explorer 25, because that pocket is a little bit more quick accessy. It's, you know, quicker and easy, and it doesn't have extra space. It doesn't have the roll top, so you don't have extra space to throw in extra camera gear. So that might actually work with these core units a little bit better than, you know, using the core units with the Action X. But I did try to use the quick access of the top compartment and the top access while driving around Saddle Road on the Big Island looking for Pueo. We were able to catch one. So here's the shots that we got of the Pueo. again, when I tried to use the top axis for, you know, quick, easy access of the camera in and out of the bag, it just didn't work as well as I thought it would. It was just too much to move all of these little pockets, all this fabric, and, you know, kind of reach in to take the camera in and out of the bag. I ended up just having the camera sit on my lap as we drove around. It just, you know, wasn't the most ideal process, but, you know, to each its own. All right, so in conclusion, I do like these new core units, although there are some cons. The main con being that I wouldn't get these core units for the top axis, especially if you have an Action X series bag. It kind of defeats the whole purpose of the roll top and the expandability, and there's just like too much fabric going on to make the whole process like super seamless and super integrated. But if you do have a Explorer series, like a Explorer V2 or an Urban Explorer, I would actually look at it, because your top pocket is kind of designed for quick access. So if these core units can fit inside those Explorer bags, I think that might be a better solution if you want to prioritize top access of your camera. For me though, I think the main benefits of these things are the extra carrying capacity, the fact that I can now include all of my camera gear inside one core unit instead of having to separate them between compartments of the bag. It makes the carrying experience slightly better and slightly more comfortable, so big plus for that. But yeah, what I think I'll end up doing is I think I'll probably like reverse this camera cube in, you know, in some ways. Put the quick access gear to be accessed quickly through the rear, because that's normally how I access all of my camera gear anyways. I'll probably put all of like the less access gear, like the extra lenses, the extra body, the drone stuff, more towards the top. That way that awkward kind of, you know, positioning and awkward pulling out of camera gear, it has kind of low impact on my workflow because it's not the stuff that I access often. So we'll probably do that. In fact, let's just do that a little bit right now. All right, so that already looks a lot better. So now I have quick access to the main camera, quick access to the vlog stuff, and stuff that I don't need quick access to, stuff that I rarely ever touch anyways, like filters. Sometimes I touch it. Filters, you know, extra astro lens down here, drone stuff. It's still accessible, but it requires a little bit more effort, and, you know, just doesn't slow me down. Everything else that I need very quick access to. So essentially I'm just repeating everything that I did with the large mirrorless core unit, but now it's all in one nice little package. You know, the nice thing about having everything all in one compartment too is that, let's pretend I needed to kind of add extra space on a trip. It'd be very easy to just separate the core unit from the bag, pull it out all the way. Let's see if I can do that here. Yeah, there we go. And now I have two bags. I can put clothes, tripods, whatever in here, and I can use this as my personal item. But yeah, everybody's camera gear situation is gonna look slightly different. So, you know, the benefit of these core units is that they just add more flexibility, add more storage, and add more choices for you as a photographer to see if you can indeed improve your current camera gear carrying solution. So I'm gonna figure out how to pack all this stuff up and get it all back to the car, but hopefully you guys found this video helpful. Oh, I did mention that I do have an affiliate link if you are interested in purchasing any of these new core units or anything from Shimoda for that matter. Make sure you use the affiliate code or the coupon code LEE10 at checkout to save yourself a little bit of money on your purchase. Again, I don't know the exact price of these things, but I know that, you know, as most Shimoda products are, they aren't the cheapest things in the world. So I think any amount of money that you can save if you are interested in investing in this system would be a little bit helpful. I am thinking about purchasing the large core unit for the 25-liter size and trying to see if that would work with the Explorer series, like the Explorer 25 and the Urban Explorer 25, both of those bags that I do own, and I think would actually allow me to carry the fully mounted 300 GM setup in those bags. So that is an interesting purchase that I will test out, and I'll see. I'll report back to you guys on that. But yeah, check out Shimoda's new core units if you feel like you need more camera gear, if you feel like you need top axis. That's exactly what they're for. But just remember, the top axis is kind of limited on the Action X, so don't buy it just for the top axis. Buy it because you actually need the extra carrying space. But that's gonna about do it for me. Thanks so much for watching. If you like this type of content, this travel, vacation, a little bit of photography, education. Oh, I'm getting fat. Hit that like button, comment below, subscribe if you aren't already, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.